Alright, so making this video to give my thoughts on the Deadpool movie. It's unique. It'll start off with that. It's very, very unique, especially the opening. If you have not seen it, wait, first, spoiler alerts, definitely, because I'm going to go throughout the entire movie. Uh, it's not bad per se, but it's definitely not the type of movie that I expected it to be. I mean, it's unique. Remember that word. It's very crucial. And it's very, very creative. Definitely funny. But there are just some things in the movie that, well, after seeing it in theaters last night, I don't know. On the drive back home, I was just thinking they could have done a few other things in this movie. Move your face. Um, okay, so it starts off like this. Um, you have this slow mo scene of this car crash, this collision course, and you start off with like this guy with like that burner in his, like, you see the mark on his forehead and it's like flying out of his mouth or something like that, and then you start to see the I don't know what it's called, but it's when it says something like starring Nicolas Cage, directed by Tommy Wiseau. I know, right? The best examples. Well, it says something like starring the sexiest man alive, directed by someone who couldn't come to nothing, or this Russian guy who plays in every movie, and some CGI dude. Like that definitely got a laugh out of me. I thought, wow, that was very funny. It's one of the only movies I've ever seen that ever did something like that. It broke the fourth wall, if that's the way you would put it, just within the first minute or two of the movie. And then you get this nice crayon drawing of Deadpool flicking someone off, or I think it's his hands holding his swords or something like that. I don't know. To me, it just looked like two huge middle fingers. But yeah, then it goes like, oh, this is not the way. Well, we're gonna go before this, and it's him sitting in a cab, some taxi cab with this Indian dude, and he does his Deadpoolish like things, like it's quiet. He just looks at a brochure, just tucks it into his pocket, looks over at us. Like he breaks the fourth wall in this movie. When he looks towards you, he literally means to do so. And like he gets bored or whatever, or he gets lonely, so he crawls up to the front, and he gets in this weird, engaging conversation with the driver, and then doesn't pay him, gives him a nice high five for payment, and then it cuts to what he was going to do, and basically he's like sitting on top of this highway overpass, and he's doodling that crayon drawing with a red crayon and all that, and I guess he just perfectly times a fall into this truck, which is the truck you see in the very, very beginning when the movie starts, and you see the slow mo and the crotch shot and all the people in agony, and the bike that looks like it's about to ram into a guy. That comes later. That happens then, and this movie does that a lot. It goes back into the past and ties it back into the present, and it does it. That's basically the entire movie. A good half, if not a little half of the movie, takes place in the present, but almost all the rest of the movie takes back in the past, and how it slowly ties back up to where we left off in the very beginning of the movie. And I thought, okay, that's fine. I mean, you don't see that many movies do that, and I mean, for a Deadpool movie, I guess that's fine. But there was a slight issue with that when I was sitting in theaters with my arms crossed, going, huh. After all the highway nonsense and awesome fight scenes with and he does this bullet count thing where he has 12 bullets, but he needs to take out all these people. He wastes his shots on this one guy who was like being a dick or something like that. Then he uses his swords. It's always cool stuff. It goes back like 3 years to you can actually see his face and all that, and it's Ryan Reynolds, and I guess he's just some sort of he's like I don't know. In my eyes, he just seemed like some sort of merc, and he hunts down like stalkers or anyone who does injustice amongst people, and he like gives justice to them. Like there's this pizza boy, and I guess he's stalking this girl, and this girl hired Ryan Reynolds to put this boy down and like put him in his place, like, so he won't ever do the shit to her again. And okay, fine, that's cool. So yeah, they do that, and all of a sudden he meets this stripper or whatever in this bar full of rough redneck looking guys and biker people, and he has a stupid friend who makes the worst of jokes. I swear to God, I just groaned in the theater because the dialogue from his friend is so bad. It's pretty much pointless. You can save up so much more time if you just didn't have to exaggerate or, you know, stretch out all of his jokes. It's just bad and it's boring. So, also, he gets his name because I guess he's in a Deadpool, and it's like this big chart, and it's your name, and there's a money symbol next to you. And if you die in this place, whoever did a bet on you gets money or something like that. I'm like, all right. And yeah, so he meets this girl, and they totally get it on because both their personalities are just sick and twisted. Reminds me of Family Guy. But no, aside from that, they eventually start dating. They have tons and tons of sex, and then they eventually decide to get married, and they live in this pretty cozy / dumped up looking place. And all of a sudden, after all their happiness and shiz, turns out he has terminal cancer or something, and he's gonna die. The wife or his fiance, I don't even know if they got, I don't think they got married. No, they didn't. But she tries her best to get him to different places, like different countries and states, to these hospitals to attempt to help him, but he doesn't want to. And all of a sudden, this Agent Smith looking dude, which is what he quotes, comes up to him and he's like, we can help you, and we'll turn you into like a superhero or a man who has power, but it's like more power. It's technically like superpowers. He's like, okay, whatever. So over that that following night, he really thinks hard about it, and he leaves in the middle of the night, of course, ditching his girl, and he goes to this guy, and then it skips to present day, and I guess you see, what is it, Colossus? I don't know his name. It's a big. This is the CGI. This is the CGI guy they're talking about. It's like some cliched Arnold Schwarzenegger dude, but he's big, buff, and steel. I'm pretty sure you guys know who his name is. And this girl who's technically a walking, like nuclear warhead. She doesn't do anything throughout the entire movie except do teenager girl-like things, be a smart-ass, be quiet, just be really, really defiant. But she doesn't actually do anything till like the very end of the movie, near that scene. But they want to recruit Deadpool to be one of the X-Men. I'm like, of course. And those two are the only two characters that you see from the X-Men in the movie, because Deadpool makes this fourth wall joke, like I guess the director couldn't afford a third X-Men for this movie. But yeah, they go out in some like Black Hawk, and they go over to Deadpool. And after Deadpool like wrecks up the street because of the very first scene of the movie, and he was fighting those guys in the truck, and there's motorcycle gunners and all that stuff. They handcuff him after he attempts to beat the big guy up, and he breaks his hands and right foot, and he drags him away through these handcuffs. So Deadpool, as you may know, with the way he is, he cuts himself off, and when the hand is just hanging on the handcuff by the short amount of wrist that's still attached, he has the middle finger. He has the middle finger pointing up at it, and it's just hanging like that. That was absolutely hilarious. I really did laugh at that. That was funny. Everyone in the theater laughed. Everyone in the theater was so loud with their laughter. I swear to God, I just want to watch this movie a second time because I swear I missed some dialogue. Like while they were laughing, I could hear faint voices from the movie. Like, is that Deadpool talking? Everybody, shut up. But I digress. It was funny, and I guess they deserve it if they're their first times. Anyway, so after he cuts his arm off. Cuts his hand off. He lands in a truck, and he literally speaks up at the audience. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to the past again. So this guy, Ryan Reynolds, he goes to this really suspicious-looking place that the Mr. Smith character told him to go, and it looks like a shithole, and you know that you can't trust these guys because it looks like a dump. It's it looks like a dump. So they start filling him up with some sort of liquid, and they get a syringe and put it in there, and it has some blood in it. He's going to get AIDS, and apparently it's there's going to be there's a mutation in him, and in order to bring it out, they need to put him through a various amount of tortures to raise his stress levels or whatever. So they put him in like an ice bath for the longest period of time. They electrocute the shit out of him. They burn him. And the very last bit, because he has such a smart mouth, they put him in this tank where they lower the oxygen to the point where he really can't breathe, but his brain is still functioning and his heart is still functioning. If his heart should ever stop and the brain still has a few minutes left of activity, they'll put oxygen back up, only for the heart to keep going, which is a very, very little amount apparently. So he's like constantly choking, and over time, actually over the weekend that he did this, because that's his like torture, his punishment, his skin and everything eventually starts to erode and shit, and it all turns like a fleshy zombie-like state. His face, all over his body, even the downstairs business. But one thing about this, though, the entire time that he's in their custody, it's very, very brief, and they do not explain anything. The entire time, it's just Ryan Reynolds being a smartass, like talking smart and just being himself at everybody, including the head honcho, whose name was Ajax, the soap brand, and yeah, it's pretty much it. I mean, he's there. They fill him up with stuff. They torture him, and he just keeps running his mouth. That's pretty much it. They don't explain anything. So if you're new to Deadpool and you watch this movie, you won't understand jack crap. And I started out reading the comics, so I think I have a brief idea as to what happened to him, but it's definitely different from what I've seen in this movie. And eventually, after his body becomes all weird looking, he is now immortal technically. Like if you cut off a body part, it'll grow right back and stuff like that. So yeah, he headbutts this girl who for some reason carries a match in her mouth. She chews on matches. God knows why. And because of that stupid reason, he headbutts her and takes the match out of her mouth and keeps it in his mouth. And when the guy is like, "What's my name?" for the billionth fucking time, he gets the match out after he leaves out of his mouth, spits it in his hand, lights the place up, and gasses the place. And well, it ignites and there's flames everywhere and he sets the whole building on fire. They have a little fight scene. He sticks him to the ground. Because the Ajax, I guess, is a mutant also, he bends the pole so he can't get up. Building burns, everyone dies, including a man who has a daughter and all that, banana pancakes. And out of the ashes, Deadpool rises, and he goes back to the real world just to see that his girlfriend, or fiance, whatever, has like... Well, we don't really know, because he never reveals himself to her throughout the entire movie until the very, very end. So, we don't know how she feels at all. That's another thing, too. Character development was really put out in this movie for her character, because throughout all the movie, we just know that she loves to have sex. They have a really fitting personality. And right after their lovey-dovey moments, she's gone. And after that, we know nothing about her, despite the fact that she still works as a stripper or whatever. That's pretty much it. I mean, the rest of the movie is just focusing on Deadpool, which was a little surprising to me, because most of the time in superhero movies, you'd focus on almost every single character individually. Maybe show her struggling or something like that. No, it's just Deadpool struggling. And, yeah. Well, I guess I wouldn't call it Deadpool, because in the movie, it's not Deadpool, it's still Ryan Reynolds, and he does not name himself and give himself that identity until he actually goes and talks to his friend and says, like, what can I do with myself? And his friend is actually smart, and he's like, the guy who did this to you thinks you're dead, right? Well, good, keep it that way. He won't know that you're still out there and, running your mouth. So he comes up with a name, he looks up at the board, and, like you're the Deadpool, whatever. He's like, Deadpool, Mr. Deadpool, or Captain Deadpool's like, no, just Deadpool. He's being funny. And, so he starts, he goes through the first Spider-Man movie kind of thing. Like, he makes his own homemade costume, and it upgrades and upgrades and upgrades through sewing and all that shit. So he goes Peter Parker on him, and, yeah, he starts hunting down the people that are on his, like, checklist to find Ajax. And Uh, over time, his suit gets like better and better. There's this one lady, black lady, who's like, "Man, I want cocaine so much." And it actually cuts back to that because they break a fourth wall in the fourth wall, but I'll get to that when it comes to that. So he kills and kills and kills. Suit gets better and better and better. So right after that, let's see here. What happened after he finally got his suit to the way it looks now at present time? Oh yeah, it goes back to when he was on the bridge, fighting people, meets the big steel-looking dude, cuts his arm off, lands in a truck, and they drive away. Now the movie is up to Q, up to part, and the entire movie just goes on from there. Not much past talk except for fourth wall break and a fourth wall break. So he drives off in this truck, gets off, goes to his home, which is a really big pigsty, and he takes off his suit over, puts on Crocs. His hand is starting to grow back. It's like a baby hand. It's all really weird looking. And I guess he was living with the black lady who really wanted cocaine. And this is when he breaks the fourth wall joke. It's like, hey, do you remember that lady who wanted cocaine? He goes back into the past, and his past self is like, yeah, that lady. Whoa, we're breaking a fourth wall and a fourth wall. That's like breaking 16 walls. That was pretty funny. So it goes back to present time, and I guess they really got it on, despite the fact that she's also blind, so she can't see anything. She constantly brings it up, and yeah, after Ajax finally figures out that, hey, Deadpool's still out there because, you know, your idiot friend decided to lie about your identity and who you are, where you are. They kidnap his girlfriend because apparently Ajax knows the girl for some reason. That's never explained, and that really had me confused in the theater. So they kidnap the girl after Ryan Reynolds finally got the balls to get out of the house and go meet her. And they're like, okay, now it's time to go actual Marvel superhero movie mode and go rescue the damsel in distress. So he teams up with Colossus, I'm just going to say that, and the Bomb Girl, and they go off and fight on what looks like one of those gigantic battle cruiser flying ships from the first Avengers movie. Except it's all in ruins now, and I guess that's where they're doing all their business. And she's at the very top, and she's in one of those tanks that Ryan Reynolds was in that, you know, cuts down the oxygen. So Deadpool slices and dices a few guys. He meets this one dude from Jacksonville. I was so surprised because, you know, I'm in Jacksonville, and they mention Jacksonville so many times, and it's all in good jokes, or they're insulting it, or it just goes back to jokes, or they're just being funny, or they met people. Apparently this guy, he's from Jacksonville or whatever, and his wife makes a good casserole or something like that. He hasn't met him in a while, so he doesn't kill him. He just knocks him out really good and pulls him away out of danger, which I don't think helps because later on the whole thing crashed on top of everybody. So I think everybody died anyway, including him. But yeah, they all have a fight. The atomic girl, the bomb girl, actually shows her true stuff, and she like glows and like flares and all that stuff rotate around her body, and she explodes, and stuff can launch hundreds, thousands of feet into the air. She can run super fast and all this kind of nonsense. So I guess that was pretty cool. Deadpool has a fight with Ajax. Ajax has these like unbreakable pickaxe and hammer looking things that apparently Deadpool cannot cut through, despite the fact that Deadpool can cut through so many other things in the movie with the swords. And the girlfriend, of course, has to help out after she's let out of the cage, tank, whatever. She grabs the sword and like stabs the dude, and then she's knocked tons of feet back onto her head. And the thing is that at the end of the movie, she doesn't really seem to have any scratches on her except for like the leg. I'm like, girl, you ought to be in serious pain right now. Seriously, I mean, wow, that hit to the head when you were thrown against that truck and all this nonsense. It's so dumb. And the fact that, well, let's not get to that. Before everything falls down, Deadpool like wants to deliver the finishing blow because he's stabbed up in the head and he pulls it out. He's about to get the guy, and then everything starts going down because that bomb girl, when she lit up in this huge explosion, she weakened the bottom of the ship, so it all slowly tilted at an angle and everything fell off. He put her back inside the tank to protect her, despite the fact that it now had a huge hole and crack in it. so it should have broke when it hit the ground, but no, hit the ground, concrete, and all this stuff lands on top of her. It's still intact, which is kind of nonsense. And Ajax, I guess, is not dead. They have a little fight. He puts Deadpool nails into the ground and wants to put the gun at him. You have this cliched talk from the Colossus dude. He's like, you can choose to kill him, or you can choose to let an enemy go. Life, death, it doesn't really matter. The past is, and then he just shoots the guy. He's like, oh, and he pukes up. He's like, why would you kill the guy? And it wasn't really funny. It was just really repetitive, because you've seen stuff in movies like that all the time. So Deadpool hasn't really done a lot of things original. He takes off the mask. He's all deformed. The girl still loves him and all that, so they're still together, of course. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. My overall thoughts on the movie was it was funny. The action was really, really good. That's one thing. It's very animated. I mean, you can totally see a lot of the CG in the movie too. That's one thing I always look out for in movies these days, is how much CG do you use. And there's a lot in this movie, but it's done to make it look so well. It's used to make everything look so perfect, and it does look perfect. But you know, sometimes you just want to be a little bit more original. And yeah, the comedy in the movie is fantastic. There's a ton of profanity, but it's used in almost all the right ways. Sometimes it's not, but that's all up to you. I found it pretty funny. There's some nudity, sex, and all that stuff. I don't care. I just wanted to see the blood in action, and because it's rated R, thank God it was, and not PG-13. They were able to do all this stuff, which is what made it so funny. I didn't see too much wrong in this movie, despite the fact that there was a lot of character development in anybody except just Deadpool. Actually, no. In some scenes in the movie, there aren't that much character development at all. I mean, we don't know his origin. We don't know. We don't really know who he is exactly. He's just a man who is a smart mouth, and he worked for some kids, like hired him to get up on some other kids to prevent him from doing shit. So you really don't know much about Ryan Reynolds. You don't really know about his character. I don't know his real name, other than Deadpool. I don't know the comic character's name. But yeah, you don't really know anything about Ajax, just about the fact that he's a mutant. You know almost nothing about the girl because she's just that stripper. And yeah, I mean, I wish you got to know the characters a lot better, despite the fact that they only went through like these quick cuts, like cuts back to the past. Now it's the present, but you do very, very brief things. Character development's definitely something I was looking forward to, because at the end of the movie, I didn't know who the hell anyone was anymore, except for Deadpool and maybe Ajax. I don't even remember the girlfriend that much anymore. The story, I think the story also could have been told a lot better. I mean, not a lot, a little better, because you're at present, you go back to the past, and it all ties in, and that's fine, but it cuts back and forth so much, and the atmospheres of both are so different. You have one that's so dark and depressing, and then one that's a lot lively, and then the other one was, it's present day, and it's just taking place in one spot. It's just a lot of pointless dialogue, and, it's only like a minute or two long, and then it goes back. There's not enough time that I think in each segment and different time periods to establish a proper tone for the movie, because it's life and death, action, lovey-dovey, and it mixes it up, and it's not in order, so it kind of puts you out of the mood when you're watching them, enjoy themselves in life, and then it immediately cuts to sadness, love, and immediately fight, and all this kind of stuff. So it didn't really tie in as much as I thought in other movies that I've seen. But overall, I thought it was a nice movie. Not too much bad in it from me. I mean, there are several things that I wish I could have seen more in the movie, especially the mutation. They definitely could have explained that more. And yeah, overall, movie's good. Recommend you see it before it gets out in theaters. And yeah, that's my review. I'm out. You have anything to say? No. Alright. Turn this thing off.